Hey everybody, Prepper Nurse 1 here. Today is still Monday. It is the 2nd of January 2023. So real quick, I wanted to show you the tents in some spots were sagging. They've held up really well, and with all the rain, and you can kind of see the ground here is pretty wet still. But I had to pull some of them back, repound them in on the other tent as well. So that takes care of that. So they're back to being all set for right now. And I just went around and redrove everything down as well. So that took care of that problem. I wanted to make sure I got on that before anything else pulled out. All right, I want to talk about in this video, I want to talk about California and what's going on out there. I'll tell you what, California has some of the most extreme weather you'll ever see. So besides, dealing with either drought or flooding, landslides, fires, they also obviously contend with earthquakes. And it was just a 5.4 magnitude earthquake in Northern California. All right, so they're dealing with that, and then also in Northern California they're dealing with flooding right now. There's a picture shown today of the highway being underwater. So yeah, that's not a good thing. That doesn't do things really well. And for all of you out there who hate California and just wish it would break off and fall into the ocean, let's remember that all of California is not bad. There's a lot of good people in California, and a lot of preppers in California as well. And on its own, I think California is the 6th largest economy in the world. So it's pretty vital that we have California up and running for the rest of the country. Just because the people that are in charge government-wise are a bunch of lunatics, that is not the fault of a lot of the good people that are out there. I don't know how anybody can afford to live there, to be honest with you, with the taxes being as high as they are. But that's just my take on that. But anyway, so with the flooding, all right, so I've been asked a couple different times about that from people. How do you prep if you live in a flood zone? And obviously that's something that, you have to realize. If you are in a flood zone, you need to take appropriate measures for that. So if you're storing stuff, obviously, most likely underground's not going to be the best place unless you have something that's completely, watertight. Then that way you don't have to worry about that being flooded when there is a flood. And, floods can really do a lot of damage and change the trajectory of the land and everything else as well. But one of the options that you can do is put things up higher. If you're going to build, make sure you're building, so we'll use Mark's cabin for an example. Let's say he was right down by the creek and decided he wanted to build right down by the creek. Well, the smartest thing for him to do, if that was going to be the case, would to be build much higher up, so if there was flooding, that his building would not be destroyed and flooded out and having all that flood damage. And so that's one option for those people that have to deal with that flooding type of situation. Building up higher, building a berm even around your home. I mean, that sounds kind of extreme, but if you look at the damage that has been done, when you live in along the Mississippi River, right? All the flooding that has happened through the years with the Mississippi, you're looking at a situation where eventually the insurance companies won't even insure you anymore. So, you have to kind of take drastic actions. Again, people choose to live where they're going to live, all right? Wherever you live in the country, there's going to be some kind of weather that you're going to have to deal with. That's just a fact. It's be it tornadoes, be it hurricanes, flooding, extreme heat, extreme cold, ice storms, you know, you name it. We got a nice eclectic mix of things in this country. You know, like if you live in Buffalo, you know that if you live in Buffalo, New York, you're probably going to have to deal with some large snowfall amounts during the wintertime. Now, obviously, this year they got hit twice, or I should say last year now, they got hit twice pretty extremely, unfortunately, with a great loss of life because of the storm, which is always sad to see. Again, with proper planning. I remember reading one story about a young girl was in her car. She had her scrubs on and Crocs. And she was, you know, in her car, and I don't know if she was on her way home from work or whatever, but she got stranded and stuck. And she was on the phone with her mother, and she had said, well, I'm going to stay in the car until I run out of gas. And then if I run out of gas, I'm going to have to make a run for it. Now, she ended up, you know, the snow got so high, covered the tailpipe, and she ended up dying of carbon monoxide poisoning. All these things could have been prevented very, very easily. Knowing, number one, if the snow gets too high, you better make sure that your tailpipe is uncovered, and so that you don't fall asleep and die. Also, having that go bag in your car with a pair of boots, socks, sweats, you know, being able to layer up clothing, because if, you know, good gloves. If she had had those things, she could have gotten dressed over what she had on, and she could have gotten out of that car and gone and trying to get some help. Unfortunately, you know, that was not the case. And that's a young girl that nobody taught her, you know. So I think she was like 22, if I'm not mistaken. So she was very, very young. But somebody needed to stand up and say, hey, listen, we live in this climate. Because we live in this climate, this is what you need to keep in the car at all times. Keep it in the trunk, or, you know, in the back seat. You know, have something, you know, don't go wandering off, girl. Stay over here. You know, you need to have those things in place, because you may never need it. But in that extreme case that you do, you're going to have it there, and it can save your life. Even if she had, you know, like having a wool blanket in the car and having, you know, some food and some water, she could have rode that storm out. She could have turned the car off, you know, turn it on just to get the car warmed up, making sure that the exhaust is clear. You know, knowing those things, that's the difference between life and death, unfortunately. A lot of people got out of their cars and went to try to go get help, and they ended up freezing to death. They found people in snowbanks. I mean, it's a tragic, tragic thing, okay? I will never make light of that. I would never make fun of that. But realistically, with proper education of the environment that you live in, you can save your own life. And it doesn't take a whole lot, folks. It's not like it's a whole ton of money to make sure you have some supplies in your vehicle just in case, you know. It's, like I said, it's just, you never know what's going to happen. You never know what can come up. And so, you know, just like the situation that I just had recently, all right? I had, you know, hit the ice patch, and I didn't have Fix-A-Flat. I didn't have, you know, a tire gauge to check the tires. I did not have, you know, an air pump in the truck. Well, guess what? I do now, because I learned my lesson. And obviously, thank goodness, it, you know, ended up being okay, and the tire ended up being fine. But it could have been a really bad situation. And so, you know, and it was like ridiculously cold, and there was a heavy-duty wind chill. Now, I was dressed properly, so, you know, that's one thing I always make sure, you know, and plus I also always have other stuff in the vehicle anyway. But like I said, again, wherever part of the country that you're in is long, hey, where are you? Whatever part of the country, there she is, okay. All right, I just didn't know where you were. I just didn't know where you were. Good girl. Good girl. You know, plan accordingly. Know where you live, know what the dangers in your area are, and then, you know, build your homes in accordance. If you know that you live in California and there's going to be fire, you know, get a metal roof. Build with mortar. Make sure it's thick. Don't have a whole lot of combustibles around your home. Those are just, it sounds like common sense things, but people don't do it. And that I don't get. Especially if you've lost a home once, you rebuild it, and then the next fire comes and you lose it again. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Why wouldn't you build according to where you are? So, just some things to think about, folks. Let's keep California in our thoughts with everything that's going on out there and hope that they're okay. All right? Remember, folks, we are all in this together. We are one race called the human race. As soon as we can figure that one out, we truly will be in much, much better shape. Also remember to hug and kiss the ones that you love. Tell them every single day. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. We never know what's going to happen in life. So it's really important that we tell the people that we care about every day how we feel. Last but not least, STD, step, thing, and day. One step at a time, one thing at a time, and one day at a time. Whatever you are trying to do, whatever you are trying to accomplish, you can do it. The only one that's going to stop you from achieving your goals is you. That's it, nobody else. Stay positive, stay away from the negativity, and you're going to be just fine. Set realistic goals and then set about to making them happen. I hope you all have a great day, and I will talk to you later. Prepper Nurse 1, out for now.